be the presenter today for this back to school training. I know many of you might have been using McGraw Hill's program over the last year or two. The platform has changed a little bit, and we'll go through some of those changes. It'll still look very familiar. The changes are very subtle. If you are brand new to Inspire Science, we're going to start at the very beginning to try to give you a really strong foundation of how Inspire Science is organized and what resources are available for you as a teacher, and even what the student experience looks like if they go in online. So let's start with that baseline foundation of how the program is organized, and then we'll go online to take a look at the teacher experience online and the student experience online. So this program is called Inspire Science. It is available in all the core high school science titles. By that I mean biology, chemistry, physical science, physics. It's a hybrid program. Now, why do I use that word hybrid? I could have used a different word. And by that, I mean, you can choose your instructional path. Students get a student edition. You get a teacher's edition. There's a tremendous amount of printable resources online. Every week, I encounter teachers that say, Jason, I don't use a lot of technology. I'm kind of old school. Can Inspire Science work for me? And the answer is absolutely, it can. We have the resources to support a traditional approach, but every week I also get teachers that say, my students have devices in their hands every single day. Please help me utilize them and maximize their potential. Can Inspire Science work for me? And the answer is yes. So whether you're on the traditional side or the digital side, or somewhere in between, which I call a hybrid classroom, Inspire Science will support you. On what devices? PC, laptop, Chromebook, tablet, and even a smartphone. What experiences are students going to have access to on these devices? Well, they come in all shapes and sizes. This is a phenomena-based program. So down here, you see this little chicken. Every single module will begin with a phenomena video. We'll take a look at one here in just a little bit. Lesson concept videos, virtual labs, and simulations. There's an interactive ebook experience. It's one of many ways students can access the content in their book, a traditional digital book or an interactive ebook. There's even something called Learn Smart and SmartBook. It's an adaptive, personalized learning tool. We'll take a sneak peek at all of these resources today. So let's do a unit walkthrough. What experiences are going to be found throughout to help you as a teacher and for your students to engage them and delight them and challenge them? Let's take a look. Every unit begins with an encounter the phenomena image and a STEM module project or STEM unit project launch. From there, we go into a module opener. Okay, there'll be a phenomena there. We utilize the 5E lesson model. It's a research-based approach. I bet many of you use it already. We use it because it's number one, it works, and two, it's very easy to implement as a teacher. We close out the module by finishing up the clay of evidence and reasoning loop. We revisit the phenomena. There are some other features that are available to you to utilize at the end of the module. And then we have a unit close. The big takeaway here is we have units that are broken down into chapters, or modules, I should say. If you want to think of them as chapters, feel free to do that, which are broken down into lessons. Unit, modules, and lessons, a very familiar approach. If you were to open up your teacher's edition at the unit level, you'll see some best practices like a driving question storyboard. Post the big question from the unit level, the smaller questions at the module level, and have students share their ideas on sticky notes. It's a best practice that's working its way around science classrooms around the country. Another best practices are formative assessment probes, a scenario that we ask students to consider and get an idea of what they're thinking going into the lesson. These are features you'll find at the beginning of each and every unit, and an opportunity to clarify any misconceptions that they have along the way. We know that some of you might be integrating some NGSS philosophy, and so we've integrated in NGSS best practices as well. You'll see orange boxes that support the core ideas, blue boxes to support the science and engineering practices, and green boxes to support the cross-cutting concepts. So wherever you see that orange, blue, and green color coding, that's support for NGSS standards. If you're not an NGSS district, don't worry about them, but look at them anyway. I think you might find a tip, strategy, or suggestion for lesson success, even if you're not an NGSS district. Every unit has a storyline. Think of it as simply as a pathway, a conceptual pathway for students understanding the big concepts of each and every module along the way, and every module will build upon itself. And we're going to take a look at a biology. We're going to walk through a biology lesson, but I'm going to sprinkle in some physical science and some other disciplines as well along the way. If you teach physical science, chemistry, or physics, know that the lesson experience we share here with biology, it's the same for any discipline, chemistry, physics, physical science as well. So every unit has a STEM project in Inspire Science. And this one is genetically engineered corn, okay? It incorporates the concepts of DNA structure and function of genetic applications of genetic engineering. And students are going to have a real world problem at the end that they have to solve. And the problem is, what is the most efficient way to protect corn crops from the European corn borer? Our STEM unit projects are a culminating performance task. Every unit ends with one. We introduce it at the beginning just to give students kind of a heads up as to what's going to be expected of them, but that challenge comes at the end. It's an editable Word document performance task. So now we're at the beginning of a module. So those are some features found at the beginning of a unit. Driving questions storyboard, page key or formative assessment probes, and a STEM project launch. When we get to a module level in the student edition, every student is going to see a 2-page spread that looks like this. On that 2-page spread, you'll see a driving question and a reference to a phenomena online. So in biology, it might be, why are these siblings not identical? And it'll say, go online to watch this video to see this phenomenon in action. In earth science, it might be, where did this lava come from? Again, it says, go online to see this video to see this phenomenon in action. In physical science, it might be, could a person really sink and disappear into a pit of quicksand? If we have any physical science teachers on the room, in the Zoom, I have that video up and running. I'm going to share it with you to give you an idea of what our phenomena videos look like. Let's take a look at this one. It says, yes, I see he can, Mohammed said he can. Okay. Lana says, yes, yes, yes. Okay. I wonder why. I wonder how he's going to be able to. Let's take a look at this and see how. At the beginning of a module, it starts with a phenomena video. They go on to test. Go on to test the strength of quicksand. They use a crash test dummy, I guess, and they try to pull it out with a crane. Every module will begin with some kind of phenomena designed to spark student questions and curiosity. Some of them will be sort of historical feeling. Some of them will have a Mythbusters kind of feel to them, kind of like the one we just saw. Every module begins with one. In this biology module, remember, it's why are these siblings not identical? From there, we go to a claim, evidence, and reasoning framework. Every module will have one. I know many of you use claim, evidence, and reasoning in your classroom. If you use it, there's an opportunity there. If you don't, you can skip right over this feature, but know it's available at the beginning of every single module. From there, we go into the 5E lesson model, and there are experiences all along the way. And we'll take a look at a couple of these experiences in this overview. In Engage, you're going to see the focus question. Think of it as the essential question, the question we want students to be able to answer at the end of this lesson.
Imagine.
And you'll often see a video to support that right at the beginning of the lesson. Let's take a quick look at this one.
Imagine that a chick gets information for black feathers from its father and information for black feathers from its mother.
Or it could inherit black from dad and white from mum, or white from dad and black from mum.
Or finally, it could get information for white feathers from both of them.
Bateson and his team observed that breeding from a pair of black chickens always produces 3 black chicks for every white chick. To explain that observation, he has to make one final logical assumption.
Bateson deduces that the information for black feathers overrides the information for white. So in 3 of the chicks, you get black feathers. 1, 2, 3. Only when the chick gets information for white feathers from both of its parents and no instructions for black feathers do you get a white chick. And bingo, you have your 3-to-1, 3 black, 1 white ratio.
So every lesson will have these experiences embedded. There's opportunities for students to share their thinking along the way in the ebook. There's places for them to type along the way. The video is embedded within the ebook. So right after that video, they may be asked, what do they know about this topic? What do they want to know? What questions do they have? And this interactive ebook experience is something we'll take a closer look at. At the bottom of the page, you might see what we call a tray. And again, this is designed mainly for our NGSS users. If you are teaching the core ideas, cross-cutting concepts and practices, you'll see that color coding in the tray. From there, it's time to explore. And in Inspire Science, that means hands-on investigations. And when you think Inspire Science, I want you to think quantity, quality, and variety of editable experiences. And so launch labs. Every module has a launch lab, whether you're a chemistry teacher, physics, or biology teacher, or earth science. Launch lab, I like to call ABC, activity before content. Having students doing something before they ever get into the narrative. Launch labs are shorter experiences. You can kind of get in, get out, maybe 10, maybe 15 minutes long at the longest. Quick investigations, again, shorter experiences. They take 10 to 20 minutes long. They give you an opportunity to analyze the data, maybe compare data between tables. In my science classroom, when I taught, sometimes I didn't like the 45-minute experience because I felt like I was constantly setting up and tearing down and setting up for the lab and tearing down. The bell would ring, my students would leave, and I was asking myself, boy, I sure hope they got it. It would have been nice to analyze the data or have a discussion about it. Well, these shorter experiences give you the time to do that. Launch lab and quick investigations are shorter experiences. Design your own labs are a little bit more open-ended. Here, students, instead of a procedure, they have a plan. We give them enough structure so they know what to do, but exactly how they get from beginning to end is kind of up to them and their team. We call those design your own labs. Applying practices are designed to support science skills or scientific and engineering practices. And forensics labs, these are whodunit mysteries, CSI type investigations, like this one, the case of the counterfeit coin caper. All of these are editable. They're in Word documents for you. For those labs that are too dangerous, too time-consuming, maybe too expensive, or just plain logistically impossible to do in class, you can do those virtually in Inspire Science. There is a suite of virtual labs from McGraw Hill, but we've also partnered with PhET simulations. Many of you are familiar with PhET, and you'll find a bunch of them in Inspire Science, especially the physical science, physics, chemistry. A tremendous amount of those PhETs have been integrated in the platform, which unlocks a lot of potential in them. You can attach some instructions, attach activities, things that you can't do in the PhET site itself. Now, I mentioned this interactive student edition. So the interactive student edition is a segment of the lesson. Okay, we've broken down the lesson into little segments that we call interactive student editions. Each one of these segments is assignable. So if the lesson is overwhelming, just assign a little segment. It won't be too much reading. It'll just be just enough. And why do we call it interactive? Well, let's take a look. In these interactive segments are dynamic images and visuals, things that students can manipulate. There might be a video embedded. There might be self-check practice. There may even be an assessment in this little segment. So I'm going to go online and take a look at one of those segments. Okay. Here I am in a biology segment for cell shape and movement. There are 5 pages to this little segment. We're in page 1. And so in this segment, can I have the page read to me? Yes, I can. There's a speaker button here. If I scroll down here, we'll start to see some of the interactive parts of this. So here I have the plasma membrane. I can click on that. How about the microfilaments? I can click on that. Microtubules. Okay, there they are. How about all layers? So there's things I can manipulate as a student along the way. Okay, there's some highlighting features and some other things we'll take a look at here in a little bit. Go to page 2. There's some movement. Here's cilia, color-enhanced electron microscope photographs on the right. A widget on the left where the cilia is moving. Same with flagella. So the interactive ebook comes live for your students. If I go to page 3, a little bit more narrative. Notice that it's not overwhelming with narrative. It's very image-rich. There's interactivity along the way. There's self-check practice here. And on the last page, there'll actually be assessment where students can share their thinking through a series of questions. This is an example of a segment in the Interactive Student Edition. We'll take a look at a few others along the way. High School Inspire Science has some companion pieces as well. So if you're a physical science teacher or biology teacher, this is a companion piece that you have. It's called the Reading Essentials. On the left-hand side, you see the Student Edition page. On the right-hand side, you see the Reading Essentials. So how are they similar? One, they have the same headings, even the same subheadings. See, we see cell structures, cell structures. But on the right-hand side, visually, it looks different, doesn't it? A little bit more white space, even a larger font size. I notice on the right-hand side, I've got little spaces where I can actually write or type in. So it's a write-in version of the textbook. The most powerful part of the Reading Essentials, though, it's written 2 to 3 grade levels below the Student Edition. So not only is it aesthetically less intimidating, not only can students write in it or type in it along the way, it's also written at a lower Lexile level. Okay, it's a companion to your student textbook. By the way, I find that a lot of teachers, once they start using the Reading Essentials, you might find it works for all of your students. Think of it as an alternative to the Student Edition. You got 2 different versions that you could choose to implement. It's digital as well, so if you want to implement this digitally and have students type in their answers, they can. The second companion piece available to all high school science titles is a science notebook. Again, on the left-hand side, you see the Student Edition, but this time on the right-hand side, you see the science notebook. So what is it? It may look kind of familiar to you. If you're thinking, okay, the main ideas on the left, keep it very clean, just the main ideas, indent and put the supporting details. What does that sound like? To me, it sounds like the Cornell Notes. And that's exactly what this is. Every single lesson for every single high school title has the Cornell Notes for students to be effective note takers. They could write in their notes or they could type in their notes because this has a digital companion piece as well. You can print these out and make copies for your students, or you can assign them digitally and have students complete their science notebook through those editable PDF form cells. We get to elaborate in the 5E lesson model, and we might revisit the claim evidence. Reason or the driving questions storyboard. Revisit some things. There are typically high interest magazine style articles connecting the science that you're teaching to STEM, engineering breakthroughs, careers in science. At the end of the lesson, which is evaluate, there's going to be a mini assessment. And one of the things you'll see in our mini assessment, you're going to have students, there's a summary, there's questions to check for understanding. We've all had lesson assessments in all of the programs we've ever taught from. But what may be new to you is something called LearnSmart. LearnSmart is an adaptive, personalized learning tool. It's unique to Inspire Science. No other program has it. And so with LearnSmart and SmartBook, students have a reading assignment that comes pre-highlighted. It highlights them to the core ideas the teacher wanted to be a part of this assignment, really focusing their attention. Once they've read, there will be question prompts that they have to answer. It will not only ask them the answer to the question, it'll also ask them the confidence they have going into the question. So I happen to have SmartBook up and running. So here I'm in the student website, and one of his assignments is SmartBook that the teacher has assigned him. Let me go into that SmartBook assignment. I click on this little tile here, and I'll enter the SmartBook assignment. Now, the first thing it's going to say is there are only 2 concepts on this assignment. As a teacher, I control how many concepts there are. So I could have said 4 or 5 or even 10 concepts. Keep in mind, though, the more concepts you put in the SmartBook assignment, the more time it's going to take your students. For the purposes of this short training, I only put 2 concepts. I wanted to keep it very simple. Now, as a student, I could go into my reading first. Okay, so let's go into the reading. We're in structures and organelles. Remember, whatever's going to be a part of this assignment my teacher gave me is going to be highlighted yellow. So it looks like cytoplasm is going to be covered when I start getting asked questions. What else is going to be part of this? Well, it looks like cytoskeleton is as well. So those are the 2 concepts that are going to be a part of this assignment. Do I know the difference between cytoplasm and cytoskeleton? Well, let's go to questions. I'm going to go to questions now. Notice what it says. Make progress by completing concepts. the number of questions will vary depending upon your individual needs. It will adapt to every student's performance. So those two students are going to get the exact same pathway along the way. It's okay to get questions wrong. You're getting 100% if you complete the concepts by your due date. Think of this program as not an assessment tool. Even though it assesses students' understanding, don't think of it as an assessment tool. Think of it more of as a study tool for your students to help them master the concepts so they'll be better prepared for an assessment. Submit your answers by selecting your confidence level. This will not affect your grade. Okay, I'm a student, I got it. The environment inside a plasma membrane is a semi-fluid material called cytoplasm. Some of you might be thinking, he misspelled that. Well, your students are going to misspell words as well. We've got a lot of difficult to pronounce and to spell words in our classrooms. What happens if a student knows the answer but slightly misspelled it? So we put the answer in. Remember, with every question, it's always going to ask your confidence. I'm going to say I'm highly confident. It gave me the correct answer. It says I got the correct answer. So this program wants to know what students know and what they don't know. It's not as concerned as if they can spell prokaryotic or eukaryotic 100% of the time, every time. Imagine being a student and saying, okay, I got this. I know this one. It's cytoplasm. I'm highly confident. But you just slightly misspelled it, and it says incorrect. That can be discouraging. You want a program that's smarter than that. And this program is. If I go to the next question, I'm going to say this is cytoskeleton. Medium confidence. Okay, I got that correct. So what happens if I start getting questions wrong? Okay, maybe I want to get onto social media. I've got friends that are calling me. I want to get this on the back burner, get it to my teacher as fast as possible. I don't care how I answer. I'm going to say mitochondria for this. Highly confident. Incorrect. Next question. I'm going to say cytoplasm for this one. Highly confident. Notice what it does. If I get two questions wrong, it says before moving on, you need to go back and review a little bit more. So it's going to force me to go back and read about these concepts again. This experience between reading and constantly being assessed and revisiting those concepts is unique to Inspire Science. And it improves student performance. Take a look at the infographic on the left with students on this Learn Smart and SmartBook program and students without. It really makes an incredible difference. And you could decide to use it a lot of different ways. Let me give you some use case scenarios. And by the way, all of these are fine. Let's say you're going into cell structure and function next week. Give them a cell structure and function this week assignment on SmartBook. Now they're getting ahead of your lessons. They're coming in kind of already having read a little bit, already having been assessed a little bit. They know a little bit. Now you can spend more time on maybe some labs and some hands-on experiences because students got the content outside of class and they come into your class with a full head of steam. That's one way. I like to call that the flipped model. The second model is give them a SmartBook assignment concurrently with your lessons. So I'm in cell structure and function on Monday. Maybe Monday night or Tuesday night, I give them a cell structure and function assignment on SmartBook just to see what they took away, just to make sure that they got all the good concepts that I taught. So it's working, in this scenario, it's working concurrently or in tandem with your lessons. The third option is test prep. You were in cell structure and function 2 weeks ago, but now we got a big test coming in a week. Have students forgotten a few concepts? Well, let's see if they've forgotten them. Let's give them a cell structure and function test, or not test, but an assignment, I should say, and see how much they remember and revisit these concepts so they can refresh their memory. You could use this all three of those ways. There's no right or wrong way to use it. When we get to the end of the module, we're going to revisit what we've learned. There's a study guide. We're going to revisit that claim, evidence, and reasoning framework. And then there is a go further activity. It's always a data analysis lab. Analyzing and interpreting data is a skill. It's a skill that needs practice, and it's one that we like to reinforce in Inspire Science. And there's that STEM project, remember, that's waiting for you at the end of the unit. So don't forget that performance task. Some classrooms I find use it, some classrooms don't. I think it's usually time dependent. If you have the time, great. If you don't, that's fine also. Formative assessment, summative assessment, performance-oriented assessment, however you would like to assess your students, you're going to have opportunities and pre-made assignments and assessments to be able to do just that. And even a test generator. Create a test in seconds. If you want to print it out like you see on the left, feel free to do that. You can edit the questions, add your own, and make it perfect before you print it out. If you'd rather have students take the test digitally, you can do that as well. There are pre-made assessments, and you can create your own for students to complete digitally. Technology-enhanced questions like the one you see on the screen as well. So we've done an overview now. Let's take a look online and see where all these components are found. So the first screen you see is what I like to call the book bag screen. It's going to have your class periods here. If you teach 5 periods of biology, you're going to see 5 periods of biology here. Period 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Right here on my screen, I only have 1 period of biology and 1 period of physical science. Okay, so I'm going to enter my biology class, and you can enter by clicking on the title or the book cover. Either way, it's going to take you to the same location. That location that it takes you to is called the dashboard screen. It's essentially your home screen, but we call it the dashboard screen. How do I know I'm in the dashboard screen? Well, it says dashboard here on the screen. That helps. Dashboard is lightly shaded over here on the left. And there's this little dark bar here on the left of dashboard. That kind of tells you where you're at. Dashboard is one of the many locations you have on the left to go to. There's course, there's gradebook, calendar, assessments, and roster. Under roster is reports, assignments, and my tools. Okay. But right now, let's focus on the dashboard screen. And we'll take a look at a few of these other locations before the end of the session. What's on my dashboard screen? Well, let's scroll down. I have my student ebook and my teacher ebook. Let's take a look at those. I happen to have the student ebook up and running. In fact, let me go ahead and close it and launch it here because I want to share with you a tool. I launch it. Now I could enlarge this by clicking this button, and it'll make it larger. Okay. But if you're like me, I like to have a lot of windows open at the top. I know many of you are. I bet you right now some of you have 5, 6, 10, 15 windows open here at the top. If you're like me and you want to open this into another window, there's this little icon right here. It says open a new tab. And I'm one of those people. So I'm going to click on that. Now it's opening up in a new tab, and I can close out this original tab. So let's take a look at that. And by the way, every resource will always have that button in the upper right-hand corner. So now we're in the student ebook. What can students do on this ebook? Well, they can have this book read to them. There's a speaker button here. Okay. They go from lesson to lesson by clicking on these arrows. Okay, so they can go to lesson by clicking on these arrows. The lesson itself appears in one big scroll. Okay, so beginning of the lesson to the end of the lesson is one scroll, no page turning needed. That's helpful to a lot of students. You might think it's a small deal, but for a lot of students, they get lost in the process. So one lesson, one page from beginning to the end where we see the check your progress. If they want to go to a different lesson or the next lesson, they click on the arrows. Okay. So there's a speaker button in the upper right-hand corner. But what if I click and drag on a section? A speaker button shows up here as well. I could have this section read to me.
Most of the molecules in the plasma membrane are lipids.
So I could have that section read to me. What else can I do with that toolbar? I could highlight this section. And you highlight this section green. And maybe down here, I'll make a little note to myself. Ask Mr. Marshall if this will be on the test. Now, how did I know I have an annotation there? A little red dotted line appeared. So maybe it's a couple weeks later, I come back to this page, I go, what did I write to myself? I know I have a note because I see a red dotted line. I can click on that. Oh, I better ask Mr. Marshall if this is going to be on the test. Okay. So I can highlight and I can annotate. In the upper left-hand corner is my digital table of contents. So I can go anywhere in the book I want to go to. Okay. So if I want to go fast forward and go to, let's say community ecology, I could go to that lesson. But notice also in the upper left-hand corner, I have my highlights and my notes. and my bookmarks. I didn't make a bookmark, so you don't see one here. But at any time, if I want to go back to the highlight that I made, it will hyperlink me directly back there, wherever I happen to be. Same is true for my bookmarks. It'll hyperlink me directly back to where I made that, wherever that happens to be. So when we were in school and college, I can only speak for myself, I had a yellow highlighter. And if you looked at my college books, you'd find sticky notes sticking out of my books every which way. And those are the locations I need to go back to study. But with this program, you have digital sticky notes, and they're all hyperlinkable, making them very easy to find. Let me share with you one other feature here in this digital ebook. Let's go to terrestrial biomes. Okay, and let's go to this lesson, population dynamics. Any one of our lesson pages is always Google Translate compatible. So at any time, I can translate this to over 100 languages. If I come up here, I have students, they'll need this in Arabic. I can have this in Arabic. I have students that want to see this in French. I can see it in French. So any language they can go to. And notice this, it just doesn't do the books. It also does the entire site as well. So at any time, this entire site, starting with a platform, can be Google translated as well. Okay, I come here, and this entire site can be translated. So just know that that feature is available to you anytime, anywhere. So we've taken a look at the student ebook. Let me close that out. Another feature, book you see here is a teacher ebook. It looks a little bit different. Okay, let me go ahead and close that out and open it up again because I want to reinforce that one tool. I open it up. Remember the tool to bring it up into another window? It's this tool right here with that arrow. I open it up, it opens in another window, and I can close out the original. The ebook opens up in a 2-page spread. The reason we have this 2-page view, we didn't see it in the student edition, did we? It was only in this teacher's edition. Is so teachers can fast, quickly, and easily just zoom through the teacher book to find the location they're looking for. Okay. Now, to be able to actually see it, we need to click on this icon. That's the single page view. And now it'll open up in a size that you can see. Okay. So 2-page view for quick and easy navigation, 1-page view. You, by the way, also have those tools. If you want to highlight your teacher's edition to make notes to yourself, you can do that as well. And those will get stored for you in the upper left-hand corner, just like we saw in the student edition. So we've looked at the student ebook. We looked at the teacher ebook. Okay. The next biggest location on the screen is the table of contents. And if you were using this before, this looks a little bit different for you, okay, than it was last year because we updated it over the summer. But it'll look very familiar to you, and it'll take no time at all to get used to this new format. But if you're new, start with a table of contents because as a teacher, the biggest thing that I want to know is how do I find my stuff? How do I find my resources? Click table of contents. You'll see all of the modules in the program. There they are. Now, what if you want to go to a specific lesson or all the units in the program? You want to go to a specific module, click on the arrow. Now you see all the modules in that unit. And if you want to go to the lessons in the module, click on the arrow again. And now I'll see the lessons in that module. So we're in the unit 2, the cell, module, cell structure, and function. And let's say I want to go to lesson 4, structures and organelles. When I click to the lesson level, it'll take me to my digital filing cabinet. And that's exactly what the table of contents is essentially. It's a digital filing cabinet. Now, I didn't have to go all the way to the lesson level. I could have stopped at the unit level. So let's take a look at, let's just click on here, unit 2, the cell. Remember, there are some features that I showed that are exclusive to the unit level, like this one, the probe, and the STEM project. Here's my STEM project for this lesson. It's on algae bloom remediation. I'll give it a second to load up. So algae blooms are showing up all over the planet. I went to Cancun, Mexico a few years ago, and there's a huge algae bloom. It was all over the beaches. Students are going to figure out how to control it. They're going to use the engineering design process to figure it out and come up with a creative solution to a very real-world problem. Okay. Are these editable? Yes. But they're not in this format. To edit them, make sure to click download this file, or you can click this download this file arrow up here. Either way, it will download that into a Word document. Then now we'll pull up and now you can edit that. Okay. Editing, and now I can come in here and make any changes that I want. Okay. So this is an editable STEM project. Where is it found? It's found here in my unit file folders. Okay. So the probe, science probe, and the unit file folders, or the STEM project, are here. If I dig a little bit deeper into a module, let's go into, how about module 7? Here I'll have a set of file folders as well. And by the way, you hear me use the term digital file folders. When I use that term, I'm talking about these horizontal label lines. That's exactly what they are. They're digital file folders because I can open them and I can find resources in those digital file folders. In my module planning file folders, there's my teacher's edition. It was in the dashboard, but it's here as well. And if I open it up here, it will take me directly to this particular module. Okay, I won't have to navigate around. It'll take me directly to this module. Here is my reading essentials and science notebook answer keys. And here's a PowerPoint available to me, all in my module planning folders. I have learning resources here. Okay, here's my student edition. And again, if I open it up here, it'll take me directly to the beginning of this module. What else do I have here? I've got a student edition in Spanish. My science notebook. Remember, this is my Cornell notes. This is the version for the entire module. Okay, 17 pages long. That's every lesson in this module will be in this file. And here's my reading essentials, my lower level read of the textbook. 14 pages. Every lesson's reading essential will be in this file because we're at the module of it. And that's what we'll find in the module file folders. Close this out. Do I have a module assessment? Yes, I do. Open up the assessment button. There's a module test. It's ready to go for me. Okay, and I can assign it right here. Okay. So every step of the way, I've got resources. We took a look at the unit file folders. We took a look at the module file folders. Let's take a look at lesson file folders. Again, all my resources in the lesson are organized into digital file folders, starting with planning, learning resources. Now, if I open up my science notebook here, my Cornell notes, instead of 17 pages, it's only 4 pages because it's just for this lesson. When we're in the module, it was the entire module, but now it's just this lesson. And by the way, this is probably the one you'll use the most. You're not going to print out all 17 pages because you don't need the entire module. You probably just need a lesson at a time for the Cornell notes. And here's the reading essentials at the lesson level as well. It's 5 pages instead of 14 because it's only this lesson. Okay, so every step of the way I've got resource support, probably more resources than you'll ever use, but it gives you the opportunity to differentiate instruction and meet the needs of all the learners in your classroom. When I go to any one of these E's, I'm going to see these digital file folders. Okay, here's a launch file folder. And in this experience, there might be a video here. Here's what I know, what I want to know. If I go to explained, I'm going to see additional file folders here. Remember, these are these digital interactive versions of the textbook. Okay. Can I assign one of these? Yes, I can. Okay. Wherever you see an assign button, that means I can assign it. If you don't see an assign button, it's meant not to be a student resource. For instance, if I go to my planning resources, these answer keys, I don't see an assign button. That's not designed for students. That's designed for me. But if you see an assign button, it means it's something that you might want to consider assigning to your students. Okay. If I scroll down here a little bit farther in my digital filing cabinet, down to my evaluate folder, do I have a pre-made lesson quiz? Yes, I do. Okay. I could assign this as well. All of these quizzes are digitally assignable here, but they're not printable here. To print out the module test or the lesson quiz, I go to my assessment section. It's right here. It houses all of my assessments and it gives me more capabilities. So if I go to my assessment section, these are all my modules. If I go to open up a module, let's say molecular genetics, these are all my quizzes in that module. Here's a module pretest. Lesson checks are the quizzes at the end of the lessons. And if I scroll down here, I'm going to see a module post-test. What are all these little checks along the way? Those are additional little mini assessments that will focus in on very specific topics if you want to give students a pop quiz on those. Now, if I look at this lesson quiz, lesson check, it's here, over here on the right, that I'm able to print it out. So if you want to print this lesson check out and make copies, you can do that right here. You can also assign it here if you want to. That module test that we saw, here it is. If I want to print it out, I could print it out. I could also assign it. If I assign it, I see a screen that looks like this, and every assignment will. I can click continue. Maybe I want to get rid of a quiz test question. I can, or preview it, and I can click continue. When do I want it due? I put the due date here. Do I want them to have an unlimited amount of time, or do I want to limit the amount of time they have on this? Do I want all of my students to get this, or do I want to eliminate certain students? The default will always be all. And if I scroll down here, I can even activate some student settings, okay? I can even activate some additional student settings. I'm going to click assign. And now that test has been sent to my class. Now, if I go to my assignment section here, I'll see that assignment, that module quiz, among some other assignments that are awaiting my students, okay? But here's that module test that I just sent my students. So let's go back to the course view. The course view will take you back to your digital filing cabinet. So what did we just learn? We learned that if we go back to our dashboard screen, to find our stuff, I accidentally got popped out. Let me pop back out into my class. First screen I see is my dashboard screen. Teacher ebook and student ebook right here on the home screen. If I want to find my resources, I need to go to the table of contents. And I need to choose a unit, module, and lesson that I want to go to. But I have resources at every step of the way. I'm going to go into a lesson and go back to my cell-structured function. All of my resources get organized into digital file folders. Anything that has an assign button means it's something we suggest you might want to consider assigning students to complete digitally. We saw that every module lesson has pre-made quizzes. Can't print them out here, but we can assign them here. To print them out, we have to go to our assessment section over here. Now, one thing we haven't seen yet is if I go to the bottom here, I've got teacher added resources. At any time, I can add resources of my own here by clicking upload resource. I could browse my computer, find a resource that I want to bring into here. How about this resource? I'll give it a title. How about my favorite lab? And I could bring that into this activity, okay? Now, once here, I can assign it like any other resource. Okay, so this digital filing cabinet can be all of McGraw Hill's resources. If you start adding yours, all of your resources as well. Now, the student has received a few assignments. What does it look like on the student side? Well, let's take a look. I'm going to open up an incognito window here. And I'm going to enter the student experience. He has a biology class and he's taken physical science as well. I'm going to go into his biology class. Now, the first thing you'll notice is it looks pretty similar to the teacher experience. Not as much stuff on the dashboard screen. Okay. A lot of the stuff over here was designed for you, the teacher. But he has his ebook here. At any time, Jim can access his ebook. He can open up in another window, just like we saw before. Okay. He can highlight and annotate this. All the things that we saw before, he can do in his ebook. He's got a calendar here with a few assignments. His assignments also show up in his assignments section over here. There are my 3 assignments. They'll also show up in his calendar. Okay, those are those 3 assignments. If I look at a different view, let's say the month view, looks a little bit more like a calendar in this view. All were assigned the same day, all are due the same day. Now I could launch those assignments anywhere I see the assignment, on the calendar, on the dashboard screen, or here in assignments. So let's launch a couple here. What does a quiz or an assessment look like to the student? I'm going to enter this quiz by clicking on this little tile right here. Three questions on this quiz, 3 points possible. I'm going to click Start Assignment. Now, as a teacher, I can activate some tools over here, like a calculator. Okay, these are things that I can activate over here, or text to speech. There's even more tools, like a line reader and other things that I could bring here, or I could bring in a resource from an outside source, like maybe I have a periodic table that I use in my class that I want students to use. I could import that and bring that over here to the right. So any tools that you want students to have in the assessments will appear right here, and you control what those are. So which organelle produces protein for the cell? I'm going to say ribosome. Next question. I could click on this arrow, by the way, or the pull-down menu also to get to questions. Next question, arrow or pull-down menu. The scientists have proposed that all cells are produced from division of existing cells. I'll choose this. So this is called a closed question, C-L-O-Z-E. It's a pull-down menu. Remember, there's great variety in our test questions. Drag and drops, bucketing, short response, really any kind of question you can imagine. Next question. Question 3. Now here's an audio response question. Students can have a voice here. Name 2 differences between prokaryotic and eukaryotic cells. I'm going to click on this button here. I'm going to allow my microphone to be activated. Mr. Marshall, I think eukaryotic cells have a nucleus, and I think eukaryotic cells has a mitochondria. You always call that the powerhouse of the cell. Stop, done and review, and submit. And now that's been sent to my teacher for a score. Now notice what it does for me as a student. If I go to my assignment section, it's no longer in my assignment section. I've submitted it already. It's off of my plate. Now it shows up in my past work section. Okay. To-do lists are everything that you've yet to turn in. Remember SmartBook? We took a look at this earlier. This is my adaptive personalized learning tool. And students have access to that here as well. This is an assignment I gave my students. So everything that is due shows up in to-do. Everything that's been turned in shows up in past work. Now, as a teacher, will I see that work that the student did? Yeah. So I'm back here on the teacher side. And if I go to my assignment section, looks like somebody has turned this cell pop quiz is. I have 8 students in my class and 1 person has turned it in. It says I have 1 person a grade. Well, let's take a look at that. I go into that assignment. I can see that Jim has submitted this. Let me view how I did. I can see Jim's assignment here. Green is good. Green means Jim got this question correct. Red would have meant he got it wrong. So it scores it for you automatically, which is nice. Now, one thing that can't be scored automatically is the audio response, because I added that audio response question. I created that one. So if I go here, I can hear his response. Okay, let's see what Jim said on this one. Mr. Marshall, I think eukaryotic cells have a nucleus, and I think eukaryotic cells has a mitochondria. You always call that the powerhouse of the cell. Nice job, Jim. I'm going to give Jim full credit for that. We'll put 1 point there, and now Jim has 100% on that quiz. And I can go from student to student by clicking on these arrows, to Nolan, to JJ, to Renee. but none of them have taken the test yet. I can also click on the pull down menu and go from to student this way. Okay. So anything the student does, I can see how they did. If I were to assign a reading assignment and ask the students to highlight, I would have been able to see their highlighting as well when they turned it in. If at any time you want to see what is like sneak a peek at what students are doing or how they're interacting with their site, you can always go to roster here. Go to a student in your roster. And maybe you want to take a look and see how Clyde is doing. I can emulate the student. And what it will do is it will take me into Clyde's student experience. And I'm kind of sneaking around, if you will, kind of see what Clyde's doing. Is he highlighting? What's he doing? What is he not doing? And I could jump in here and take a look at Clyde's experience. I'm going to exit emulation mode. So this has been a short overview of the McGraw Hill Inspire Science High School program. And let me review a couple key elements. You enter called the dash and a screen called the dashboard screen. You have your teacher and student ebook right up here, up and running for you. You have some additional resources I encourage you to take a look at, especially this program guide. I think it will be worth your while if you're a new user. Here on the dashboard screen, if you need help at any time, there's a help button. And ask a question prompt right here at the bottom. If I go to help, teacher, getting started, product navigation. If I click on that, here you're going to see a lot of different subjects, but the one you want to choose is Inspire Science 2020 K-12. Here it is right here. If you click on that, it's going to take you to a location that will give you video support, tutorials on everything we covered today and much, much more. Grades and assignments, how to create assessments, more on the Smart Book, all of that as well. Okay, so you've got a lot of support at your fingertips, anywhere, anytime. Just go up here to the top and click help, or down here to ask a question. Table of contents is your digital highway or digital filing cabinet. Go into the unit file folders if you just want to go there. Not a whole lot there, just a STEM project in the probe. You want to dig deeper and go into a module? Go into that set of file folders. There's a lot here, including the module phenomena video. And if you want to go into the lessons, go here. Anywhere you go, there are digital file folders and the ability for you to add your own. Last but not least in this summary, if you want to print out tests or create tests from scratch, go to assessments down here. Go to assessments, and here any quiz in any module can be located. And if you go here to the kebab menu on the right, you could assign that quiz, you could edit it, save it the way you like it. You could even print it out and make copies. I want to thank you so much for your time. I'm out of mine, and we're here to answer any questions that you might have. Thank you so much for being here. Yeah.
Yes, we're here to answer any questions, and we're on time. So if you want to leave the session, you're more than welcome to leave. And there's a very nice comment by Islam. He said, "You're the one who deserves appreciation for the permanent support and helping us provide students with active learning at the beginning of every single year." So thank you, Jason. I think I've been doing this for you with 4 years at least, from what I can remember. So thank you.
Thank you, Suresh. I appreciate it. Thank you all for being here. And thank you for that comment. I really appreciate it. It makes me feel good.
Yes, thank you. That makes us feel really nice. If you have any questions, I'm looking at the Q&A box right now. I think 3 people have asked me if they can get the recording to the Inspire Science session, which they seem to have missed out. So that's fine. If you have registered for that session, you will get the recording for that session. If you've managed to not attend. We do have other sessions that are what am I saying? I meant to say we've got other webinars that we have for Reveal Math, Inspire, and no, we're done with Inspire, Wonders. It's my end of the day as well. So I'm going to drop that link for you in the chat box if you want to register for the Wonders session this day. If you've got colleagues who are teaching using McGraw Hill programs, then that's the link that you can use. And And I'm looking at any questions. No, there are no questions as such. So you will get the certificate. Yes, we will be sharing the certificate with you. So watch out for your inbox. That's going to have the certificate that you can have a look. I am also going to drop a Padlet link. That's great for your Inspire Science resources. In case you want to look up for anything, everything is there in the Padlet that I'm going to drop up in the chat box right now for you. Have a look at the Padlet. It's got a lot of useful resources that you might find helpful during the course of the year. And you'll get the certificate. Yes, we will be sending it to you via email. You'll also have the session of this recording that is going on right now. And yes, I'm sending the Padlet link again. Here you go. Have a wonderful rest of the evening. And thank you, Jason, so much. I appreciate your time and your dedication as well.
Thank you, Suresh. Thank you, everybody, for joining this back to school webinar, and let us know if we can help.
Thank you. Take care. Bye, everyone.